Welcome back, guys, to another video. This time about my AFCON quarterfinal predictions. So as you may know, last time I got 6 out of the 8 predictions correct. Yeah, I'm actually locked in. I'm not jinxing stuff anymore. Oh wait, actually, yeah, I'm gonna jinx all of these stuff. Just because I want to get stuff correct. So yeah, so to make things even more interesting, I haven't even checked the AFCON results. So I wanted to make a video more interesting. So predicting the scores without even knowing what happened. So yeah, let's get on with it. Imagine if Mali actually beat Tunis. If Mali beat Senegal, that would be insane if it happened. So yeah, so let's get on with it. So starting off with Mali versus Senegal. So probably the easiest one to call. So starting off with Mali, they got put in the group with the hosts Morocco, Comoros, and Zambia. So yeah, Mali, but they're the only team in the quarterfinals that haven't won any of their games. So yeah, so Mali, they tied to all of those teams to Morocco, Comoros, and Zambia, and then they actually beat Tunisia. I actually predicted that correctly. Let's go. And yeah, and now they're in the quarterfinals where they have to play a really good Senegal team. Well, yeah, Mali, they have Yves Bissouma, number 10, who plays for Tottenham. He's a good, probably their most important player, Yves Bissouma, for Mali. And now moving on to Senegal. So Senegal, they got put in a group with DR Congo, Benin, and Botswana, and yeah, they finished top of the group, only failing to beat DR Congo, which are a pretty underrated team, to be honest. They beat Botswana and Benin, but then tied to 1-1 to DR Congo. So I think I think, and then they actually had to play Sudan in the round of 16. Fun fact: Sudan went 1-0 up, but then yeah, Senegal came back with Ibrahima Mbaye and 2 goals from Ismail Assar. He's a really good player for Crystal Palace. Yeah, and here's a fun fact: Ibrahima Mbaye became the youngest ever player to score in an AFCON. The youngest ever player to score at the AFCON with just 17 years and 344 days. That is crazy. He's a really exciting youngster to watch. Play for PSG as well. Okay, and then they have to play Mali. Now moving on to their players. They have players like Sadio Mane. He also broke a record, becoming the top assister in AFCON history. Wow. Nicolas Jackson is back. He's back scoring goals at Senegal. Scored 2 against Botswana. And he's currently having a good loan spell at Bayern Munich. And they also have Koulibaly at the center back. Edouard Mendy in goal. He's an underrated goalkeeper. Pape Matar Sarr, Ismail Assar, Iliman Ndiaye, etc. So yeah, Senegal have some top players in the team, which is why I think they're gonna beat Mali and advance to the semi-finals. So yeah, that's my first AFCON prediction. Hopefully it's right. Imagine if Mali actually beat Senegal. That would be crazy. Okay, so now moving on to our next prediction, which is probably another tough game to call. Morocco versus Cameroon. So starting off with Cameroon, they were heading into the tournament with some drama because Samuel Eto'o apparently he was like the sporting director of Cameroon and wanted to put and wanted to exclude Abubakar. The manager wanted to put Abubakar, but Eto'o didn't want it because he didn't want Cameroon to he didn't want Abubakar to break his all-time goal scoring record, which is just pure disrespect to a player like Abubakar. Top striker, probably the best striker in Cameroon's history. And yeah, so yeah, instead of Abubakar, they actually recruited a player who plays in the 6th tier for Brazil, which is crazy. And yeah, they got past the group stage, which was a difficult group with legs consisting of Gabon, Mozambique, and Ivory Coast. And they stayed undefeated. They played the tough task of playing a World Cup qualifying team, South Africa, in the round of 16. And yeah, I jinxed that. They won 2-1. And now they're in the quarterfinals against Morocco. Moving on to their players. They have players like Brian and Mbeumo, Carlos Baleba, top players that play in the Premier League. They also have Zambo Anguissa, Eta Eyong is also playing really good. He's having a sensational season at Levante. Zambo Anguissa plays for Napoli, etc. I think that Cameroon could be a potential. This so far is Morocco's biggest threat, because Morocco. Okay, now moving on to Morocco. So far they've not been that convincing in AFCON. I know, yes, they finished top of the group, but they tied to Mali, which is just surprising. They and El Kabi scored 2 bicycle kicks in 2 games. That is insane. So yeah. So then they played Tanzania. Well, they were expected to win because they had load of shots on target, but they won 1-0 thanks to a goal from Brahim Diaz. Brahim Diaz is so far the top goal scorer at AFCON. He has 4 in total. Maybe he scored in the game versus Cameroon. I don't know. So yeah, no. Now the players, they have players like Brahim Diaz, as I previously mentioned, Yasin Bono, L.A. Unahi, Ashraf Hakimi, yeah, Ayub El Kabi, Narif Algrid, etc. Yeah, Morocco have some good players, really top players, and then this is probably a tough game to call. This so far is Morocco's biggest test, but can they overcome it? The 5-time AFCON winners, Cameroon. Can they overcome it? I think yes. I think I got Morocco going through. I'm sorry, but I got Morocco beating Cameroon and advancing to the semifinals. Hopefully, they can win their first AFCON for the first time since 1976. So yeah. Now moving on to their next prediction. These 2 games are super difficult to call. Algeria versus Nigeria, a rematch of the 2019 AFCON semi-final. So starting off with Algeria, they got put in the group with Sudan, and yeah, they beat them 3-0. Burkina Faso, they also beat Burkina Faso 1-0, and then they beat Equatorial Guinea. And then in the round of 16, they got unlucky to play DR Congo, because DR Congo, you cannot mess with them. They are a really good team that are in the World Cup playoffs, and they pulled a bunch of upsets. They beat, for example, they beat Egypt. They in the last AFCON on penalties. They also beat Cameroon and Nigeria in the World Cup qualifiers. So yeah, but the game went to extra time, and in the 119th minute, in the dying seconds of the game, Algeria got lucky and scored. Oof, what a goal. Now they're in the quarterfinals. Now moving on to their players. They have players like Riyad Mahrez is having a great season. He's the all-time Algeria top assister in AFCON. I really like Riyad Mahrez. There are also players like Ben Sebaini, Ait Nouri, Mohamed Amoura, who was the top goal scorer for World Cup qualifiers in Africa, etc. They're really good, Algeria, and now Nigeria. Probably they have the deadliest attack in AFCON. So they got put in the group with Tanzania, Uganda. Yeah. So first they beat Tanzania, then they beat Uganda, and then they beat Tunisia. They had the deadliest attack, and then they had to play the easier task of playing Mozambique, which they went on to beat 4-0. Yeah, 4-0. Had Victor Osimhen scored 2 goals, and Lookman scored 1, and then Akor Adams, who plays for Sevilla, scored a goal. Now they're in the quarterfinals. Now moving on to the players, they have probably the deadliest attack, which consisting of Akor Adams, Victor Osimhen, and Aromela Lookman. Now yeah, their midfield is also good. They have Premier League players like Ndidi, who is an ex-Premier League player, and Franco Onyeka. So I think this is probably a tough game. But the only thing that worries me about Nigeria, I mean, it doesn't worry me. I just think that whenever they're expected to win, when they're under pressure, they just end up choking it, which I think that Algeria are gonna go through. I'm sorry, Nigeria, but this is your biggest tough test, and I think that Algeria are gonna go through. They're gonna progress. All right, now and moving on to probably the most difficult game to call: Ivory Coast versus Egypt. Oof, what a game this is gonna be. So yeah, starting off with Ivory Coast. The defending champions from AFCON 2023. So yeah, they're a good team. Don't get me wrong, they're a really good team. So yeah, They got put in the group with, as I previously mentioned, Mozambique, Gabon, and Cameroon. They tied to Cameroon but beat Mozambique, and a great comeback against Gabon. So and then they had to play Burkina Faso in the round of 16, and yeah, of course they beat them 3-0. And now they're in the quarterfinals. Now moving on to the players, they have players like Amad Diallo, Frank Kessié, Seko Fofana. I think that they didn't even get called up, which is just crazy. Because they have really good players. Like also Diomande, phenomenal season right now. He's absolutely balling out. Yan Diomande, etc. So yeah, Ivory Coast, the defending champions, they could beat Egypt because they have a really good attack. Now moving on to Egypt. Egypt attack are also good. So yeah, they got put in the group with Angola, South Africa, and they finished top of the group undefeated. Except they tied to Angola 0-0. But then they had to play Benin in the round of 16. But now Benin, they are a mid team, and they beat Benin 3-1 thanks to a goal from Mo Salah. Mo Salah and Marmoush are having a great season at AFCON. So yeah, moving on to the players. They have like a lot of Al Ali players who balled out in the Club World Cup, and Mo Salah and Omar Marmoush. Now, for my final prediction, Egypt, the 7-time AFCON winners versus the defending champions. Who am I gonna go through? This was a rematch that happened in 2022 AFCON where Egypt won on penalties. But I just think that Ivory Coast talent they've just developed over the years, which is why I think that Ivory Coast are gonna go through to the semifinals. I'm sorry, Egypt. I'm sorry, Mo Salah. So yeah. So those are my final predictions. Let me know if you like them, and as always, we'll see you for the semifinal predictions. Bye.